afternoon, students. Today we are starting the topic of hemolytic anemia. What is hemolytic anemia? Hemolytic anemia are defined as anemia resulting from an increase in the rate of red cell destruction. This means hemolytic anemia happens when there is increased red cell destruction. Normally, red cells undergo lysis at the end of the lifespan of 120 days plus or minus 30 days within the reticuloendothelial system, that is your spleen, and elsewhere. This elsewhere is your liver. Okay, either in spleen or liver or bone marrow. Okay, these will make your reticuloendothelial system, and this constitute a part of extravascular hemolysis. Now you need to understand what is intravascular and extravascular. We will be coming back to this diagram again, but just to understand, anything that is happening inside the capillaries or the vessel is known as intravascular. Anything happening outside the vessel is called extravascular. So red cell destruction within the capillaries or the vessels are known as intravascular. When the red cells are destroyed outside, that is in the reticuloendothelial system, then is known as extravascular hemolysis. Okay. Now, the red cell lifespan is shortened by hemolytic anemia. That is, there is increased hemolysis. So in increased hemolysis, what happens? When you increase hemolysis, a lot of red cells are getting destroyed. Because of these destroyed red cells, what are happening? This will cause the bone marrow to make even more erythrocytes. All these erythrocytes will be immature. Since they are immature red cells will have shorter lifespan. So they keep getting destroyed. So this will form into hemolytic anemia. Okay. Now, however, shortening of red cell lifespan does not necessarily result in anemia. In fact, compensatory bone marrow hyperplasia may cause 6 to 8-fold increase in red cell production without causing anemia to the patient, which is known as compensated hemolytic disease. What it means is, if in case you have an immature, this is an immature RBC. This immature RBC, when it goes to the reticuloendothelial system, it gets destroyed. Okay, it gets destroyed. Now, this destruction is also known as hemolysis. This hemolysis will cause the kidney to form erythropoietin. What this erythropoietin does is, it increases erythrocyte production. So, even if you have less RBCs, you have less hemoglobin. Then also, the bone marrow can make enough erythrocytes. These erythrocytes can go again into the circulation. This can go again into the circulation. So because of this, what happens? The bone marrow causes a compensation. So this compensated hemolytic disease is when the erythrocytes produced by this bone marrow can fulfill the requirements of the body. So it is known as compensatory hemolysis. Okay. So only destruction of the red cell because of their lifespan, decreased lifespan, cannot be a cause of anemia. So what happens is compensated bone marrow hyperplasia. So what will happen? There will be bone marrow hyperplasia. This bone marrow hyperplasia will be there. Bone marrow hyperplasia will lead to bone marrow, there will be hyperplasia, which will lead to increase in erythrocyte production. This erythrocyte production will go into the circulation. This is known as the compensatory hemolytic disease, in which you don't have active anemia. Okay. So you can see these are your normal cells, and these are the hemolytic cells. In hemolytic anemia, what you will see? You will see fragmented red cells. Red cells will break down. This fragmentation is seen in hemolytic anemia. Now, premature. Now we need to understand the different types or the classification of hemolysis. The premature destruction of red cells in hemolytic can occur in two sides. Firstly is the red cells undergo lysis in the circulation and release their contents into the plasma. That is intravascular hemolysis. That is inside the blood vessels. Inside the blood vessels, when the red cells get destroyed or hemolyzed, they'll come out, and they'll come out as in the plasma. Okay. In these cases, the plasma hemoglobin rises. In these cases, the hemoglobin in the plasma rises substantially. Part of it may be excreted in the urine as hemoglobinuria. So what happens is, due to many causes, these red cells will get destroyed. These fragmented red cells, once they are released, they have lot of hemoglobin. The plasma hemoglobin is high. So some of it will enter the kidney. When it enters the kidney, it is excreted as hemoglobinuria. Okay. Secondly, the red cells are taken up by the reticuloendothelial system, where they are destroyed and digested. This is known as extravascular hemolysis. In extravascular hemolysis, the plasma hemoglobin is barely raised. Okay, here, because it's in the blood vessels, when you take sample from the blood vessels, what you'll get increased hemoglobin. Why? Because once the RBC breaks down, it breaks down into heme and it breaks down into globin. So what will happen? You'll have lot of hemoglobin. Okay, lot of hemoglobin will be there in the blood vessels. But in extravascular, what happens? It has to go into the spleen, liver, kidney. It has to go into the intestine. In these cases, hardly your hemoglobin will rise. Hardly it will rise. Okay, hardly hemoglobin will rise. So what happens in extravascular hemolysis? Your red cells are taken up by the spleen. Inside the spleen, you have the macrophages, you have the monocytes. These will take up the red cells, which are broken down into heme and globin. The heme will have a bilirubin part and an iron part. Iron goes into iron stores of the liver, whereas the bilirubin, this is the unconjugated bilirubin, which has to enter into the liver. It enters to the liver by when it combines with albumin, it enters the liver. It enters the liver. In here, what happens? You know this mechanism. It will be excreted as bile. This bile will go into the large intestine. This will become as urobilinogen. Then this urobilinogen becomes stercobilinogen and will be excreted in the feces. Some amount of it go into the enterohepatic circulation. When it goes into the enterohepatic circulation, some amount goes into the kidney and it is released. So you will have urobilinogen in the kidney. Okay. So this is a extravascular and this is a intravascular hemolysis. Okay. Now, before we come to the classification of hemolytic anemia, I would like to explain the process of how this occurs. Okay. Now I have already made this diagram, so I can brush up very soon. So we are going to start with you need to follow this diagram as I direct. See, in intravascular hemolysis, what happens is you have a vessel. Inside this vessel, you have an RBC. When this RBC breaks down inside the vessel, it is known as intravascular hemolysis. But if this red cell goes outside, that is outside the vessel, it is known as extravascular hemolysis. So both this hemolysis will cause the kidney to make erythropoietin. Erythropoietin is also formed when there is less oxygen. So hypoxia and hemolysis both can cause erythropoietin formation. This erythropoietin formation will cause erythropoiesis to occur. So what happens? Myeloid progenitor will make reticulocytes. These reticulocytes will go inside the capillaries or vessels, and when it goes into the vessel, you have immature RBCs will become mature RBCs. Okay. So here, this is your common, this is something it's very common, I have spoken to you multiple times. So we have to come into the reticuloendothelial system. So I finished intravascular, now coming to extravascular. In extravascular you have the reticuloendothelial system. In the spleen, if you see, in the spleen you have the RBCs that come inside. When it comes inside, the RBCs have to be broken down by macrophages and monocytes. So what happens is these RBCs will get into the macrophages and monocytes. So here what happens in hemolytic anemia? In hemolytic anemia what happens? There is lot of hemolysis. So what does hemolysis mean? Breakdown. There's a lot of destruction of RBCs. So because of this what happens? There's increased amount of immature RBCs which are getting destroyed. So this will cause increased LDH. Lactodehydrogenase will increase. Okay. Another point is this RBCs that are being broken down. RBCs are broken down into heme and globin. So what happens? Your globin will increase. So increase in albumin will be there. Then hemoglobin. This heme will also increase. Heme has two components. You have the iron component and unconjugated bilirubin. So what happens is unconjugated bilirubin goes back to the liver and iron goes back into the liver. Okay, as a storage form. So what happens? Lot of hemoglobin. So lot of free hemoglobin is in the blood. This hemoglobin will attach to haptoglobulins. So what happens is this haptoglobulins will capture all the hemoglobin and will take back to these macrophages for redestruction. Okay. So what happens is in extravascular hemolysis, when you see, especially in extravascular hemolysis, you will have increased lactate dehydrogenase, you will have increased iron, you will have increased conjugated bilirubin, you will have decreased haptoglobulins in blood. Why decrease? Because these haptoglobulins are capturing all the hemoglobin. So even if there are thousands of haptoglobulins, they will attach to all the 2000 hemoglobins. So what happens is the haptoglobin level will be less because it's actively doing its work. Okay. Now I'll be explaining to you what is intravascular and extravascular hemolysis. Firstly, we will be looking into intravascular hemolysis. So inside the circulation is known as intravascular hemolysis. What are the causes of intravascular hemolysis? Intravascular hemolysis, the first point is your mechanical valve. In a lot of conditions, when you have mechanical valve, when you have mitral valve, bicuspid valve malformation, in that time you put mechanical valve. In this mechanical valve, when it gets old, what happens? Whenever blood flows through, like especially when an RBC flows through it, it can get destroyed. This happens because RBC is under stress. Due to stress, by passing through a mechanical valve, this RBC can break down. Okay. Number 2, in cases where there is increased thrombolysis and increased thrombosis and increased coagulation, in this what happens is all this thrombolysis, so all these coagulants and thrombolyzed materials will accumulate in the edges or in the walls of the capillaries. So whenever RBCs are flowing through it, some of the RBCs can flow through it and get ruptured. Okay, so it's like a stone. Whenever you hit something, it can break down. So this happens in case of microangiopathic hemolysis. Okay, so microangiopathic hemolysis is seen in disseminated intravascular coagulation, in thrombocytic thrombopenic purpura. So in these cases you will see microangiopathic hemolysis. Okay. Now second is your immune mediated intravascular hemolysis. In this what happens is your body will cross react again a very important immunoglobulin. So what happens is RBCs usually have receptors. So in among one of the receptor, when immunoglobulin G comes and binds, there is a complement activation. Because of this complement activation, what happens is your RBCs will start destroying. This is seen in paroxysmal nocturnal hemoglobinuria. Okay, so what happens is whenever IgG binds with a RBC receptor, complement activation occurs, which can destroy the RBCs. Number 4 is osmotic lysis. In osmotic lysis, what happens is whenever you give a hypotonic solution as an IV, whenever you give a hypotonic solution in IV, here what happens is water starts to enter the RBCs. So the RBCs will swell up. It will increase in such a big size that it will start collapsing. So it happens in case of osmotic lysis. Again is a transfusion reaction. This transfusion reaction I'll draw again to explain you much better. So what happens is, for example, this person is a B positive patient. Okay, this patient who requires blood transfusion is known as recipient. Okay, so now if you have studied your blood grouping well, then you know that each blood group will also have its corresponding antibodies. So here we have taken the example of blood group B positive. So a B blood group will have a type A antibody. Okay, so we know this recipient has B blood group and has a type A antibody. Now if the donor, so donor is a person who gives blood. Okay, if the donor is A positive, if it's A positive, what antibody he'll have? He'll have type B antibody. So now what will happen? This is the RBC of patient. Okay, patient RBC, what will happen? You have lot of receptors. These receptors, what are these receptors? These are receptors for antibodies. Okay, so what happens is, normally if you see a B positive patient, what will happen? You will have type A antigen coming to this. Okay, type A antibody will come to this. This is normally. But after transfusion, what happens is, if this is the RBC and these are your receptors, the antibodies that are coming, these are your B antibodies. Okay, your B antibodies are coming. So what happens here? There is a cross reaction, because normally this RBC will want A antibody to come and fix to this site, but B antibodies are coming. Because of this, what will happen? These RBCs will also get destroyed. Okay, so this is known as a transfusion reaction, because there is a difference, there is alteration in the antibodies. Okay, so this is your transfusion reaction. This is very important. Whenever you have a wrong transfusion, you give a wrong blood type to a patient, this reaction occurs. Okay, now coming to extravascular hemolysis. In extravascular hemolysis, you have two parts. You have extracorpuscular and intracorpuscular. Extracorpuscular means outside the red cell membrane. Intracorpuscular means inside the red cell membrane. So what happens in extracorpuscular? Here you have something called the warm antibody autoimmune hemolytic anemia. So if you read hemolytic anemia in the first classification, you have something known as the autoimmune hemolytic anemia. Autoimmune hemolytic anemia can be warm or can be cold. Okay, so autoimmune hemolytic anemia can be warm or can be cold. This is based on the body temperature. Okay, so the warm type is seen as extracorpuscular, which causes extravascular hemolysis. In this, what happens is, due to change in the body temperature, there is increase in the body temperature, IgG is formed. This IgG will again bind to the RBCs. In this, what happens? This will directly go to the macrophages. Here what happens? It goes to the macrophages and gets destroyed. So whenever an IgG is bound to a wrong IgG is bound to an RBC, it directly goes for destruction. Okay, then hypersplenism. When hypersplenism happens, when is increased sequestration of RBC, when a lot of RBCs are getting old or getting destroyed or immature, this will lead to increased macrophage and monocyte activity, which will lead to hypersplenism. Your spleen is working so much, the macrophages and monocytes are working so much that will cause the spleen to increase in size. So that is known as hypersplenism. Third one is malaria, due to any infection. So this is a very important point. malaria can lead to hemolysis. What happens is your malarial parasite will enter and try to destroy the RBCs. Okay. Now coming to intracorpuscular. Intracorpuscular is mostly congenital causes. So number one is hemoglobinopathies. What is hemoglobinopathies? This means there is some defect in the heme components. Okay. In the heme there are some problems in the structure of the hemoglobin. You need to know hemoglobin is made of alpha and beta. So if 2 alpha, you have 2 beta. So any changes in these composition can lead to hemoglobinopathies like sickle cell anemia and thalassemia. So a sickle cell, if you say it's sickle shaped, when this goes into the monocytes or macrophages, it gets destroyed. Okay. Number 2 is a cell membrane defect. If there is any difference to a cell membrane, so you can have hereditary spherocytosis or hereditary ellipsocytosis. This again can go into the macrophages and get destroyed. Now you can have some enzyme deficiency. Enzyme deficiencies are also known as enzymopathies. Most important is G6PD deficiency. In anaerobic glycolysis, glucose will form energy. Okay, it will form energy. Whenever this cycle is going on, you have free radicals. These free radicals are very harmful to the body. Okay, so G6P will inhibit these free radicals, so will prevent cell damage. If in case there is G6PD deficiency, then there will be no G6P, so lot of free radicals will be there. There will be lot of cell damage. Okay, so we have finished what is intravascular, extravascular, and intravascular hemolysis. Okay. So coming back to the classification of anemia. So this is taken from Hirschmohan. You have some acquired and hereditary causes. What are acquired causes? Antibody. Antibody that I've already spoken is autoimmune. Autoimmune hemolytic anemia can be warm or cold. There is your drug-induced immunohemolytic anemia. You can have isoimmune hemolytic anemia. Then mechanical trauma. Mechanical trauma can lead to microangiopathic hemolytic anemia. Then direct toxins like malaria. Acquired red cell membrane anomalies like paroxysmal nocturnal hemoglobinuria. Then you have splenomegaly. Okay. Now hereditary causes. Any defect to the red cell membrane, I've already discussed, is hereditary spherocytosis, elliptocytosis. You can also say stomatocytosis. Any disorder of the red cell interiors, that is your enzymopathies or hemoglobinopathies. Hemoglobinopathies are your sickle cell anemia and thalassemia, and enzymopathies are your G6PD deficiency. Okay, you can also have pyruvate kinase deficiency, but most important is G6PD deficiency. Okay, so what this diagram means. So extracorpuscular is everything that is happening outside the red cell, and intracorpuscular is everything that is happening inside the red cells. Okay, so they have given all these things for easier remembrance: is antibody, microangiopathy, direct toxin, acquired red cell deficiency, and splenomegaly. Okay, and hereditary are your abnormalities of the red cell and interiors. So interiors can be hemoglobinopathies and enzymopathies. Now I've given you a table. This is for easy remembrance. This can be a university question of 2 or 3 marks. So you need to know this table very well. So hereditary and acquired. So intracorpuscular and extracorpuscular that I have given. So hereditary can be red cell membrane defect, red cell interior defect. Red cell membrane defect are your hereditary spherocytosis, hereditary elliptocytosis. Red cell interior defect are hemoglobinopathies and enzymopathies. These are sickle cell anemia, thalassemia, G6PD deficiency, pyruvate kinase. Okay. Acquired is your paroxysmal nocturnal hemoglobinuria. Extracorpuscular hereditary is your familial hemolytic uremic syndrome. Okay, and others are your autoimmune, drug-induced mechanical destruction like microangiopathies, infections like malaria and bacteria. Okay, so kindly remember this. Okay, so hemolytic anemia is a very vast topic. So today we are starting with sickle cell anemia. Okay. We are starting with sickle cell anemia.